After a long wait, it's finally game week in the NFL. But before the games start, I want to look at the biggest storylines going into this week. These are 5 things that I'm watching for in week 1. But before we get into those storylines, I want to take a quick look back at the preseason. There isn't a whole lot you can pull from the preseason games, but there are some things you can preview the season with. The actual scores and stat lines in the preseason rarely matter. Plenty of teams that have gone 3-0 in the preseason do poorly in the regular season, and teams that have gone 0-3 end up doing pretty well in the regular season. This is the time to evaluate individual performances, and that's what I will look at. I'm going to focus more on the rookies since this is the first time we see them in NFL action. The first rookie I will focus on is the first overall pick of the Titans, Cam Ward. Ward had a solid preseason. Nothing all that flashy, but he made some nice throws. I can't really say I expect a great season stat-wise from Ward. He doesn't really have the weapons outside of Calvin Ridley. But what you really want to see from him is those flashes to prove that you have your franchise guy to build around. Though there was another first-round quarterback that showed some real flashes. Jackson Dart was throwing some darts in the preseason. He's the QB prospect with the highest upside out of anybody in the draft. And it really showed. Russell Wilson will get the start in New York, but if Dart can develop behind Wilson, the Giants can easily have a high-end quarterback on their roster. And for the other quarterback that received a bunch of hype in the draft, Shedeur Sanders. I have never seen such a mediocre quarterback get hyped up so much. Some people swear he would be a starter on some NFL teams. I don't see it, and I feel like the preseason showed it. He played well at times, but that Rams game was an absolute disaster for him. The Browns may not be the best situation for him, but I don't believe he would start for any team. There were some other rookies that had their preseason debuts, like Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty, and Tet McMillan. Not going to go too in depth with any of them, but I did want to touch on Travis Hunter real quick. We were able to get a quick preview of him versus the Steelers. He was indeed used on both sides of the ball, catching a few passes on offense and playing some defense. But that debut was a bit overshadowed with Cam Little making the longest kick in NFL history. He didn't play any more preseason games, so we don't really know how much he's going to be used. Liam Cohen says he's going to play 80% of the snaps on offense, but that could easily change game to game depending on the game plan. We truly won't know until the season starts. Speaking of kickers, the field goals that were being made in the preseason were ridiculous. Kickers were making 60-plus yard field goals like it was nothing, including the 70-yard field goal that started it all. Well, those extra long kicks were a result of a small rule change that occurred in the offseason that allows kickers to treat their footballs several days before the game rather than the day of. This small rule change has seemed to allow kickers to kick much further than they ever have. This completely changes 2-minute situations in games. With the changes to kickoff rules that moves touchbacks up to the 35, a team like the Jaguars only needs 15 yards to be in field goal range. That is a massive advantage, which makes having a top-end kicker even more valuable. We will see if that rule ends up being reversed after the season, or if it'll be a new normal with 70-yard field goals being the new 60. Enough looking at the past. Let's look forward to the season. The first storyline to look at is all the rookie debuts. I know I talked about some of the rookies so far, but preseason action is very limited, and some of the reps were against players that will be at Walmart. In week 1, we will be able to see these rookies against the best of the best and see how they fare. Will they rise to the occasion, or will the preseason hype falter? Some of the rookies that I'm looking forward to watching this upcoming weekend are Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Ashton Jeanty, Tet McMillan, Tyler Warren, Colson Loveland, Matthew Golden, among others. One rookie I'm extremely interested in is Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. The buzz around him has exploded during the preseason since Brian Robinson got traded. The Commanders' backfield is wide open, with an aging Austin Eckler being the only real competition here. Can he take over the starting role? We will see on Sunday versus the Giants. Now, the only rookie quarterback that is getting the start this week is Cam Ward. Now, I would say I'd be excited to watch his debut. However, it's against the Broncos defense, which I think could be the best defensive unit in football this year. So I do not expect a great game from him. Now, in the same vein as the rookies, let's look at the teams who have rookie head coaches. The Bears, Jaguars, Patriots, Raiders, Cowboys, Jets, and Saints will all have brand new head coaches coming into the season. The Bears and Jaguars went went with young hotshots in Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen. Both coaches led top 5 offenses with their teams last year, and their new teams are hoping they can recreate that success. The Patriots and Raiders went with proven commodities in Mike Vrabel and Super Bowl winning head coach Pete Carroll in hopes of changing the culture and guiding their teams to the right track. The Jets brought back a familiar face in Aaron Glenn. The Cowboys hired from within for some reason with Brian Schottenheimer, and the Saints searched for scraps and picked up Kellen Moore. Now, I think Kellen Moore is a promising candidate, but I don't think he will lead the Saints to a very good season this year. The Saints are a bad team in need of a rebuild. I just hope ownership realizes this and doesn't fire him after this year. Now, I won't go into full detail into my thoughts on all of these hires. I already made a video on this earlier in the offseason if you want to check it out. But we will see if my thoughts on these rookie head coaches will hold up after the first slate of games. Another set of storylines that occurred over the length of the offseason were the position battles, but I'm going to focus more on the QB battles that happened. There were 2 main battles that were going on the Colts and the Saints. Yeah, the Browns had one, but Joe Flacco was pretty much going to win that. The Colts and Saints are in somewhat similar positions. The Colts are a more talented team overall. They have some nice receivers, brought in a highly drafted tight end, a great running back, and a solid offensive line. They also recently upgraded the defense in free agency too. But they are missing the most important piece, a starting caliber quarterback. They drafted Anthony Richardson to be that guy at 4th overall in 2023, but he's more athlete than quarterback and is made from glass bones and paper skin. Even when he's on the field, he's very inconsistent. He will throw a beautiful 50-yard pass down the field and then miss a screen on the very next play. The Colts brought in Daniel Jones as competition for him this offseason, and Daniel Jones won the QB competition. If Anthony Richardson wants to stay in the NFL, he might want to learn a different position. And for the other QB competition in New Orleans, it was a disaster. Neither quarterback was able to really stand out. And the fact that Tyler Shook, the guy the Saints drafted in the 2nd round, and who is also the oldest rookie quarterback at 25, was not able to look better than Spencer Rattler. That's a concern. And then he lost the QB battle to Spencer Rattler. Normally you'd say develop the guy, but he will be 29 by the time his rookie contract is up. There is no time to develop him. The Saints wasted a 2nd round pick. Next up, we will talk about the teams who were in the Super Bowl earlier this year. The Chiefs were absolutely dominated. And what did they do about it? They get Josh Simmons at left tackle, who was a big steal in the draft. Potentially one of the best tackles in the draft at pick 32. But they also trade Joe Thuney to the Bears and leave a hole at left guard. Their new left guard, Kingsley Suamataia, has 1 career start. So the left side of the line has a total of 1 NFL game started. They didn't make any serious upgrade to their wide receivers either. Jalen Royals is the 4th receiver right now. And their top guy, Rashee Rice, is suspended for the first 6 games. Travis Kelce isn't getting any younger. Look, I'm concerned about their offense. It didn't look that great last season, and not many resources were allocated to the offense this offseason. The defense will continue to be good, but the offense leaves a lot to be desired. Can any other AFC teams knock the Chiefs off the AFC throne, or will the Chiefs continue to find a way to hold on? We will see the start of that on Friday in Brazil. Meanwhile, the Super Bowl winners look to make another run for the title. The Eagles lost some pieces on the defense, but they still look really good. Many of the players they lost were older players, and the Eagles had younger players ready to take their spots. The Eagles mostly spent the offseason just re-signing their players. Nothing too flashy because they don't really need much. As long as they stay healthy, they look like strong contenders in the NFC. They will be kicking off the season in Philadelphia against the Cowboys this Thursday. Speaking of the Cowboys, what are they doing? These contract games they've been playing over the past few years finally bit them in the butt. They delayed the contracts of Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb until the very last minute, paying them millions more than they had to because other star players got their contracts done before them. Then they try to play the same game with Micah, and look where that got them. They could have paid him last year for around $30 million a year. Nah, let's wait a season and let that price rise. They could have paid him early in the offseason for around $38 million a year. Nope. Let's wait for that price to rise up above $40 million a year before starting any negotiations. And rather than talking with his agent, you try to directly negotiate with Micah, which he didn't want to do that. And rather than pivot, you refuse to negotiate further and alienate one of the best players on your team. And by all accounts, he wanted to stay in Dallas his whole career. But instead, you push him to a breaking point and he requests to be traded. At this point, there was no changing his mind, and you've lost your best defensive player by an unforced error. There was no reason to do this. Now the Cowboys are left in a twilight zone. They aren't bad enough to be picking in the top 5. They just paid their QB, top wide receiver, and traded for another wide receiver. But they aren't nearly good enough to compete for anything. Through complete mismanagement, the Cowboys turned a potential contender into a middling team. Congrats to the Packers for taking advantage of this situation. And those are the 5 biggest storylines going into week 1. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and sub. It would be greatly appreciated. I'm looking to be very active this season with 2 videos a week. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.